Hey everybody, I'm Andy Smith. I'm a 30-year comic book veteran, having worked for Marvel Comics, DC Comics, Image Comics, Cross Generation, Ominous Press. You name it, I've probably worked for them. And I do other things art-wise outside of comics in the field of advertising. I've also written some books on drawing comics you might have seen. Drawing American manga superheroes, Drawing Dynamic Comics was my first book. And I also did the handy little How to Draw Superhero sketchbook where all you need is a pencil because you do all the work right inside the book. Enough about that. This is the Book Look series. The Book Look series is where I grab a book off my library. You can see the tons of books I have behind me. And I go through it page by page with you so you can see if it's a book that you might want to buy. I like to know what I want to buy before I buy it, and I feel this is a way to give you some insight into these books. So join me for today's book look. Thanks.
Hello everybody, this is Andy Smith, your host with the most, 32-year veteran of the comic book industry. The last in this book look series of, well, they were Walter Foster books. If you're just joining me, go back, look at the previous weeks. I went through the beautiful Walter Foster books from the 50s that I own, where he's has different famous pinup artists like Fritz Willis talking about how to paint and draw pinups of women. Beautiful books. And then last week, we ended culmination, just to show you, of this book, which is now going for $70, that came out in 2011, that is like a best of all those books from the 50s I already went through. So if you want to see that book look, just go back a week. All right, this is not a Walter Foster book. It is the Grumbacher Library. Same format, 30 pages, thin book. Let's see when it came out. I actually saw this when we were in Greenville, South Carolina, over Memorial Day weekend at a used kind of an antique store. It was cheap. I think it was like $5, $4. Look at that. And I love this style. This is a finished painting. What you're seeing right here, finished painting. I remember going to the dentist as a kid and seeing in the dentist office, in the lobby, paintings of football players and stuff like this in this style and just falling in love with it. It's abstract, it's expressionist, whatever. And this is by Jim Jonson. This book came out in 1975. I actually looked at his stuff on eBay. It is not cheap. I love realistic painting like Boris Vallejo, Joe Jusko. I love J.C. Leyendecker, which is realistic, but with definite style. Norman Rockwell I love. And, of course, the famous pinup artists from the 50s who were mostly realistic. But I love expressionistic stuff like this. It just has so much energy to it. I wish there was a book kind of like this that was thicker, that really went into this guy's techniques a lot more. The nice thing being in 1975 is totally full color in this book. You get to see the breakdown of his supplies. He breaks it down really nicely. He goes into definitions of what a glaze is, a highlight, hue, impasto, medium, shade, tint, underpainting, value, and wash. It really is informative. I used to have oil paints. I don't know if I do anymore. He talks about preparing the board, using gesso to get textures. So underneath, for instance, in this painting right here is a lot bigger. It's 20 by 24, but you can see he used gesso when he was preparing his board to kind of model it and give it a 3D look. So the spray of the sand and stuff has a three-dimensional look. I love the movement going through here. I just love, like, even his head has movement, his body. I love the, just the impression of the crowd back there. When I see stuff like this, I really think of Bill Sienkiewicz and what he did and does in painting for comics. And I would love to try to do a painting like this of a superhero. So you can see his steps here, and then unfortunately you turn the page and it goes on to another painting. So he doesn't, once again, it's a small book. I would love to have seen a bigger book that really goes through these steps. I love this painting technique. Once again, he's building up the paint for like the sun, and you get the feeling of the sun rays. Love the movement coming in here. He also built up some gesso right here to or modeling paste for the snow coming off the skis. The tightness of the face really focuses you right here. Everything else nice and loose. I love to see the underpainting of his tonal work here. So all the tones are worked out before he starts getting into color. That's very important. This one, I mean, you just look at this and you see where Bill Sienkiewicz was getting some of his work from. And I'm not saying specifically from this artist. I know Bill is a fan of like Bob Peak and Bernie Fuchs as well, who also have this style. I'm looking, you can't see me looking, but I have a book of advertising painting I'll have to go through. Oh yeah, it's right here. I don't know if I would do a book look on this because the book is so thick, but this book is Lifestyle Illustration of the 60s. That's how thick it is. I mean, this thing is clocking in at 600 pages, and it just has advertising art from the 60s that's kind of in this style. So maybe one time I will. We'll see. That's a big one. But you can see the palette he used right here. I just love, like I said, the energy. This would be a fun exercise. Once again, I got to carve out the time or find the time. My time right now is all about Kor-Drath, The Reckoning. 76 pages of barbarian ball-busting action. Go check it out. Links are in the description below. But no, seriously, that's what I'm focused on right now. But I would love to try and do something like this. Here's from the cover of the tennis players here. You look at this, you think to yourself, wow, he must whip these paintings out. I wish he would say how long something like this takes from start to finish to give you a good idea. I love it. Like if Klaus Janson painted, this is what I would think Klaus's paintings would look like. Now, this is one of my favorites. Like I said, I remember seeing stuff like this in doctor's offices. The great Joe Namath, football players, great green and red complementary colors. Of course, the Jets he did in the green and white. The opposing team, it doesn't matter. They're just all in red. Red is also a violent cover, so it really gives you that violence that is with football. Once again, love the pencil sketch there. It's really, really cool stuff. This is very cool with the skiing. I love the crowd, just the how it's implied, you know. This is stuff Joe Kubert does in black and white so well. Just he implies things so well. Nice little blur effect of the movement of the golfer you can see. If I could afford it, I would love to have an original pinup painting from just, doesn't matter. One of the great pinup artists of the past. I'd love to own one of their paintings. And then I'd love to own a painting like this as well. I think my wife would actually let me hang this up in the house. I don't think this is the, let's see if this goes to another page. It does not. So, yeah, this is finished, and this is acrylic on canvas. And I love seeing the blocking in, but this is it. It's done. You know, very abstract. This is another one of my favorites. That was probably my least favorite in the book. The football with Joe Namath is my favorite. This is cool. You see the steps, but this is the finished painting here. So it's neat that he showed like close to the final step, really large, but it would have been nice to devote a whole page to the finished painting as well. I do like seeing this, the pencil right there. I love how for each painting he breaks down the palette that he uses, so if you want to try and do it, you can going by the palette. So I think that's pretty cool. Another football one. I'm trying to see if this says, it doesn't, but I'm going to go out on a limb and think that's a New York Giants. And then even with this guy, maybe Kansas City. I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't say. Once again, he breaks down the palette he's using. The skiing one is very cool. This is cool because he talks about how he goes from his sketch to the large canvas, because no projector, I guess, was used. He did the old grid method, and I've used this grid method as well. You draw it small. So let's say this original, these squares are only a 1/2 inch, and then you blow it up, and let's say these squares are 2 inches, and then you just kind of connect through each block to get the full drawing. I did a mural on a wall almost 30 years ago and had to use that technique. It works really well. Love the finish of this painting as well. Even this step is really cool. This almost looks like markers. And the funny thing is, I don't know if you could get this type of look in final with markers. Maybe you could. You would definitely have to use opaque stuff for the white over top. But you could definitely do this in markers and then go in with paint to get to the final part. Very cool. Billy Tucci would love this. Hockey right here. First step, second, third, final. I just love how the paint just looks like it's applied so haphazardly. And like I said, this style really, for sport stuff, lends to getting that frenetic energy across. And then that's it. This is Night Baseball. I gotta be honest, I don't know what I'm looking at here. It's called Night Baseball. This is the least representational work in which the subject matter has become almost completely abstract. I would agree with that because I just don't know what I'm looking at. I see a score. This looks like the lights on a stadium. I don't know, guys. You tell me if you can tell what you're looking at. And then Grumbacher has other books too. These you can still get. I might have that. That looks familiar. I don't know. I might have that one. But I love these books. They're great for starting out and stuff, and they're cheap. Here's one, drawing or painting the female figure. So there you go. That was the book look for this week. Short and sweet. I love this. This is one of my favorite ones. I would love to try doing a painting like that. Next week, off of the how-to books, more doing art books. In fact, I think, I'll tease it. I'm teasing it. A Superman artist from the Golden Age. I'm going to tease it real quick. That's next week's book. That's next week's book. That's next week's book. Thank you for joining me. AndySmithArt.com, Kor-Drath.com. Read the first 11 pages, and you can see in those first 11 pages how Kor-Drath and Adriana relax after a hard day of chopping up and, barbarianism, you could say. It's not safe for work, so check that out. And guys, seriously, back the campaign if you haven't already. I guarantee you're going to love it if you like barbarian type books. Of course, I draw cool barbarians and hot chicks. They're in the books. I just worked on a page that has a big, ugly looking undead giant type thing, monster in the book that Kor-Drath is fighting. 62 pages into a 76-page book. We're getting there, guys. I extremely appreciate all your support. Thank you so much. And I will catch you on a book look next week. Bye-bye, everybody.